No, for sure.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, would love to hear about it. Definitely post that in the comments. My name is Catherine Mattice. I'm the founder and CEO of Civility Partners. We focus on building positive, thriving work environments, and we actually really love to turn around toxic and ugly stuff happening. I have my very good friend with me today again, Stacey McKibbin. How's it going, Stacey?
Oh, it's amazing. We're rushing into the holiday season, and I'll tell you, I love the festivities. So it's great.
Yeah, it's fun. So, just for the audience, you are the CEO of Consilio, which is about performance improvement, and you're a master certified in neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotist. Ooh, we'll have to talk more about
No,
that.
don't look directly at me.
Yeah. Your eyes are getting sleepy. And then you also help individuals and teams break through behavior change. And I know one of my team members was in your leadership course recently and got a ton out of it. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. She was amazing. We enjoyed working with her. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's like, at the very least, I'm learning that I say the right things. Like they're talking about some of the things that I know, and that's like affirmation that I'm on the right track when I'm talking to my clients.
Yeah, it's reinforcement, right?
So I know just before we came on, we were talking about professional development and four key areas. So share that with the group. What are
Yeah,
the
so
four
it's
areas?
interesting. I've been doing this for too long. I don't like to do the math; it gets ugly. But a couple of decades, and hundreds and thousands of hours of coaching sessions. And one of the things that we found is that there's really these four key elements when you look at professional development and personal development that you really want to be focused on. And the first one is mindset, right? And I know we've all heard the phrase before: if you think you can, or you think you can't,
You're right.
you're right. Thank you, Henry Ford. Right.
Yes.
And I think that really goes to the heart of a lot of what we're talking about here with this whole idea of mindset, and how you think about things and how you feel about things affects how you behave and perform. So I don't think there's any surprises there. So your mindset's critical. The second one is your skill set, right? What skills do you have? And now we're talking about skills of delegation, skills of accountability, self-governance, resilience. Can you manage your own overwhelm and your stress? Do you know how to prioritize? Can you balance a checkbook or a budget? Can you do job costing? Again, any of these skills that you might need to be successful in your role. What are the skills that you need? And then you go to the third category, which is execution. And what we love to say here is knowing what to do in the skill set does not equal doing it in the execution area, right? Because again, that mindset might be impeding your ability to actually execute effectively. And so again, we here talk about, do you execute the fundamentals brilliantly, consistently? Or do you kind of have a feast and famine with how you do things based on how you're feeling, right? So we got to talk about that mindset, that skill set, that execution. And then lastly, it's relationships. How well do you influence others? How well can you motivate and inspire and really compel other people to take action and to move mountains with you, right? Because again, we all know there's no self-made millionaires and success. They had to have people around them in some way, shape, or form contributing to that success. And so that's the thing with relationships. And so I just taught it to you kind of in a box step, right? Where it's, mindset, skills, execution, and relationships. But what we find is it's the nuance and the flexibility. Almost kind of looks like an infinity loop wrapping through those four elements, where you're going to dance between them over and over again. And that's what we find that we're really focused in on as we work with individuals and teams is, what's the mindset, what's the skill set, what's the execution ability, and then lastly, what's the relationship capabilities.
Yeah, I like how you describe that as an infinity, where, I mean, we were also talking before we came on that my mindset has changed in the last 8 weeks or so, and some things have clicked for me all of a sudden. And certainly I was demonstrating the skills. I was still running my business, and we did just fine. But now it's like, okay, now the mindset's clicked in, and now I'm ready to make leaps and bounds. And now I got to go find the skill set, because I don't know how to make leaps and bounds. But
right?
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I
And
like
so
that.
you'll bounce around between them. And if you're doing it right, you're going to do that for the rest of your life. If
Yeah.
anybody ever comes to you and says, "Whoo, I'm done with that," well, then you should be running scared for the hills.
We
Because
never
we all
stop
need to keep
learning.
growing.
Never, never. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an onion, right? And you're just constantly peeling back a layer.
Yeah. Now you
Mhm.
mentioned resilience, which is a topic I think all of us are familiar with, given, the pandemic. It's not like we've been in a pandemic or anything. What can you give us a couple tips around resilience? What does that look like in our world right now?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, again, to use kind of the four elements, right? So the first thing is your mindset around resilience. First of all, do you think that you can?
Hmm.
And do you think that you have the power with which to address that? Or do you come from the perspective that this is all happening to me?
Hmm.
Right. So if you're in that phase of where it's all happening to you, then we call that being below the line, right? Blaming, excuses, denial. By the way, as adults, we love to call excuses reasons.
Yeah.
Right. And so we really want to challenge ourselves to get above the line: ownership, accountability, responsibility. That's the acronym OR, where you're the captain of your ship. You're the one directing things. And so it starts with you. I know that sounds probably cliche and simple, but it really does begin there when it comes to resilience. You first have to decide that it's a non-negotiable, that
Hmm.
I will be resilient.
Hmm.
And when you make that non-negotiable decision, it's just like Jack Canfield said about commitment. Look, 99% is a bitch, 100% is a breeze.
Hmm.
Meaning if you've even got your little pinky toe, just like, well, we'll see, what if this is mine to deal with? Well, then you're constantly going to have to reaffirm that commitment every
Hmm.
single day. But if
Hmm.
you just decide, I am going to figure out how to live my life in balance or in harmony, because balance suggests equal weighting. I don't think it's always equal,
Right.
right? But it's like that harmony side of the house. If you decide that that's what's important to you, then you will figure out what skills you need in order to be able to do that. And one of the skills you need is self awareness, because
Hmm.
oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where um, you kind of just ignored all the little bumps in the road, and then all of a sudden you kind of got hit by the Mack truck, right? You're like, I
Right.
did
Right.
not even see that coming. Um,
Right.
but the reality is there were tons of little clues along the way that we just ignored, or deprioritized because it wasn't important. So that self awareness is critical, because there's two steps to behavior change. Step
Hmm.
number one is self awareness. You can't change what you don't know. And then step number two is self regulation. Now that you know, what will you do about it?
Yeah. And that's my coaching in a nutshell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing there. And then, we talk all the time about the rumble of the train. When you're feeling that rumble of the train, what are your tools that you use to self regulate? So now I'm into the execution of it. You feel the rumble of the train, you feel the anxiety coming up in you, you feel your patience level diminishing. You're starting to be short and quippy with people that you normally aren't, right? Those are your signals to go, maybe I'm not operating at my best and at my fullest. So, what are some of my strategies? Do I need to get up and take a walk? Do I need to get myself out of the building? Do I need to go get myself a treat and go indulge in a latte or a chocolate or something, again, that makes you smile?
Yeah.
Do I need to call a friend, call a lifeline? Do I, like, all these different things that you could do that could have an instantaneous effect on how you feel, which
Hmm.
now I'm back to how you behave will be changed based on that new change, right? And then lastly would be that relationship component. Do you have a team around you? Who's your posse?
Hmm.
Who's your crew that has your back? And when I talk about having your back, it's the crew that's going to go, hey, what's going on? You're a little off today. Like, can I help? Right?
Yeah.
Not the one
Yeah.
that's going to collude with you and go, oh yeah, they suck. I can't believe they did that to you. But instead of like, wow, that sounds really hard, what are you going to do to elevate yourself from that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about when you surround yourself by those relationships that actually help you in those moments to be resilient
Yeah.
versus to collude with you and to get on the pity party, with you.
That's a great point. Yeah, and I'm sure you know this already. You're the average of the five people you hang out with the most, or your five closest friends. And so being careful with who you hang out with, because if you are hanging out with the people who collude and get into that spiral with you, that's not the best version of the people you need to hang out with. I always joke, I want to bring the average down, because that means that I'm hanging out with people that are faster, stronger than I am.
Right.
And I can learn from them, right? I don't want to be feeling I'm at the top of my friend group. And that could be for a variety of things, right? If you hang out with people who have more money than you, so you can understand how they got there. You hang out with people who are kinder than you, or more resilient than you, or friendlier,
healthy, right? They exercise. I've definitely got those people in my network right now, because that's the area I'm working on, is like, how do I live forever? I love my family, I love my life, and I want to be around as long as I can in a way that actually makes it, enjoyable, right?
Yeah. I have another question, and then I want to talk about your book that I know is coming out. So everything you just talked about was really on the individual, and of course the organization plays a big role in that. And I've seen a lot of research. One example is McKinsey Institute published this article. I'm like, yay, someone sees the world like me. And theirs is research based, where the article said essentially, if you're focusing on burnout initiatives and you're doing the individual stuff, like everybody gets a yoga pass and, a EAP and, hey, take a longer break at lunch, whatever, that in the end, what actually causes burnout is the work environment. So you can't give people 11 hours of work and then also free lunch, and so that article really shifted it from stop giving your individuals tools. I mean, you could still do that, but what you really need to look at is how the organization's causing burnout. So I guess what would you
say? Amen.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, yes, I've known that for a long time, but now somebody said it with some research. What are some thoughts on maybe what someone who's feeling burnt out at work could be doing, or how could they talk to their organization about what they need, or any and all of?
I think the biggest thing that really contributes to the burnout is the unreasonability of expectations, right? And so we talk a ton about, especially in strategic planning, measurable progress, reasonable time. And we need to get better at understanding what that actually looks like. I liken our strategic plans a lot to a buffet. When somebody goes up to the buffet, they load the plate up with all the different things and they get super excited about it all. And then they get back to their table and they eat generally like 25%, 30% of what's on their plate, right? And so there's the idea that the eyes are always much bigger than the stomach. And I think that's the same when it comes to what we think we can accomplish in a reasonable amount of time,
Right.
And I think it's really having better negotiation skills around, okay, what's most important for us to accomplish and in what time period, and what's reasonable to expect within that time period. And then really challenging folks that, like, hey, when you come to me with a list of 20 things, tell me the 2 that you think are going to be the most impactful. Because again, I think we have this expectation that I have this task list that I'm going to finish. And I'm here to tell you right now, you will never, ever finish a task list.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Catherine, whenever you cross off one thing on your task list, what happens?
Yeah, you add a couple more, and
there you go.
On my phone, I'm out when I think of things I need to do, and then it just ends up in the little notepad on my phone. Yeah, it's never going to end.
For everyone you cross off, easily 2 to 3 hop back on. So this idea that we have, again, the mindset that we have that we're supposed to finish these things, I think is what's causing a lot of that burnout. The other thing that I would offer companies and teams specifically is, we don't have celebrations or finish lines at work like we did in school. You remember at the end of the school year, what happened?
You get a party and all kinds of fun stuff.
And it's the end of the year, right? And then you get this break before you go into the next school year. You graduate from 9th to 10th grade, from 10th to 11th grade, and so on. But at work, you finish that project, what happens?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's just like, good job. You're good to think you got that done. Here's 2 more
Yeah.
projects to get going on, right? And it's just, it feels like, I think the finish line never comes. It
Mm,
just always gets expanded out, which again adds to that overwhelm and that burden we feel that we constantly still have to keep going, which again creates that element of burnout. So
yeah.
I think if we can again really challenge ourselves on what's most important to get done and get really disciplined about that, because the reality is people can accomplish and move mountains, and we can do that with doing just a few things. We don't have to get all 20 done. And
Right.
that, I think, is an element that most managers need to recognize, is how do you really help your teammates really prioritize and get really crystal clear. I would tell you the biggest thing we hear often is, I don't know what to do when I sit at my desk. I go to
Right.
my computer, I sit down, and I just don't know what to do first.
Yep.
That right there is what's creating the overwhelm and the burnout.
Yeah, I love that. We've got some great comments. Laird has given us a good metaphor. In military flight school, what's the closest threat? Take care of that, and then move on to the next target.
Mm-hmm.
Chantel agrees with you. She think we've got reward days that we need to have, or building in space to celebrate. Yeah, so maybe
Yes.
you could say this project is due to the client by Friday 12/9, and I'm going to take the weekend and Monday off. Or if it's due on a Tuesday, then you take Wednesday off. And I got a blog post brewing now of like, yeah, give people some time to celebrate after they do something. And that resonates with me. In graduate school, I was working on my thesis, and there's all these pieces that like step by step by
Mhm.
step. And I remember my thesis chair, something that seemed very small happened, and he was very like, oh yeah, the email, congrats. And I'm kind of going, okay, thanks. And he said, you need to get better at celebrating all the little things, because we only seem to celebrate big things. And you gotta be excited that this step was taken and you're one step closer. And so celebrate that, have a glass of
Exactly.
champagne or something.
Yeah,
And
there's the
I wanted
fancy
to add to your
pictures.
tips too, the setting boundaries, I think. And that's what I think the younger generation is really doing, where it's like, I will not commute 3 hours to work and back home. I will not do this. I will not work after 6 p.m. or what have you. And I think us older folks, kind of we're giving them some flack for that. But I think they have it right to say, look, hey, manager, you can give me 300 projects and I'm going to complete one by the end of the day. And then I'm going to go home. I'm not going to work for
Yep.
20 hours to get it done. And just,
But that one project's going to be done well,
yeah,
and it's going to be thoughtful, and it's going to be effective, and we're going to feel good about that. It doesn't have to be redone. And I think that's one of the challenges too. We get everything done so fast, we end up having to redo a lot of it
true.
anyway. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm probably going to take some flack for this one, because I'm done at 5:30 every single day, period. Non-negotiable. I go spend time with my family. I do dinner. I transition out. I do not get back onto my computer. But I've come back and I've told the company, look, we're going to spread out our vision to go over a longer period of time, because I'm not working weekends. I'm not working evenings. By the way, we work a 4-3 work week at our organization.
Nice.
So we work Monday through Thursday, and we're off Friday through Sunday. Now, of course, we have flexibility that we use for our clients and things like that to meet their needs. But as a general rule of thumb, it's something that we take a lot of pride in. And I'll tell you, people come back so energized on Monday. They are so excited to get to work because they've had a proper break and they've had a chance to go do all their errands and things like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I saw my dad work so hard. I never really hung out with him, and I'm just not. Same. I'm with you. I
Yeah, I
leave
will
and I
not
go
miss my
home and
kids
it's
like
done. Yeah.
that.
So tell us about your upcoming book. It's Lead, Don't Manage. What's
Yeah.
in the book? Give us
Yeah, so
the
we're so excited.
summary.
Yeah, this one's going to be coming out in 2023. We've been working with Forbes Advantage Publishing on this, so we're very excited
Wow.
about that partnership. And the whole book is really designed for that mid-level manager. So it's really focused in on, how to overcome that feeling of being stuck in the middle, right? Where you great job, you just got promoted to middle management because of your skill set and your probably your accomplishments and your results in your previous role, but very little time is often spent developing your skills on what it means now to be a new manager. So
Right.
you went from being a peer with somebody to now overseeing them, and that creates awkwardness, uncomfortableness, and besides, you really don't even know what it means now to be a new manager. So
Right.
you often default back to the tasks and doing things because that's what you're comfortable with. So this book's really going to explore the differences between the hats that you wear, the doer hat, the manager hat, and the leader hat, and
Mhm.
talking about how you vacillate between them. It's also going to address those four elements we talked about of, mindset, skill set, execution, and relationships, and how to use those. And it's really going to teach you all the skills that you're going to need related to managing a team. How to have difficult conversations, how to hold people accountable, how to do great goal setting, how to have difficult conversations, how to coach somebody up or out.
Yeah.
And then we even end with how to coach up to your managers and to your and to your bosses, so that again you can be influential. Because let's be honest, that middle management to us is the most important role in the company.
Agreed.
They
Agreed.
are the executors of the strategic vision. And so they've got that responsibility of really making sure everybody on the front lines is clear and aligned on what they do. And I just think it's one of the most overlooked and one of the most important roles in a company. So we both.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. As a culture consultant, they say culture comes from the top, but I'm not convinced that that's I'm formulating some ideas in my head around. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I
Yeah.
really don't think it does. Because the culture at the top could be we're X, Y, and Z with our core values, but that middle manager is who determines what the individual contributors experience the culture
And
or how they experience.
how those core values come to life,
Right.
and that's even like one of the first things we teach is how to use your core values to create self-governance down at the lowest levels possible. And this
Right.
is how you start to get away from the whack-a-mole management,
Right.
and all of those sorts of things. So I don't know,
Yeah.
we're really excited about
We're
it.
on the same page. That's why we're friends, though.
I know.
You're so right, and so am I. No. I'm just kidding. I'm curious, Stacey, how did you get into working specifically with the middle management and, really coming to this realization and really wanting to make a difference there?
Yeah, well, so it's funny, I have a personal story with it, in that my mom worked really hard when I watched her doing things, and she worked really hard to get into kind of that middle management layer,
Mhm.
and then just found that she felt like she didn't have a voice. She felt like she was powerless to really make decisions and to be influential. And I watched her really struggle with this goal that she ascended to and then felt discontented with. And so it was really kind of a bittersweet sort of environment to watch her do that. And then as I've done executive coaching now, since, 2008, it's interesting how one of the things we always work on when we're working with the senior leaders is getting down into that middle management layer and really like how we're executing the plans and the vision. And it always takes me back to that middle management layer, which I'm like, you know what, as you look around the room, there's no resources for
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
There's tons of frontlines training, sales, customer service, all that kind of stuff. There's tons of top line training of, leadership, executive coaching, but who's supporting the middle? Consilio. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I love that. Well, we've got a lot of great comments. If anybody has a question for Stacey as we come to an end here, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer it. But some of the comments say that's very insightful. We forget the contributions of managers. Gina says workplace boundaries is a must for sure. Yeah, so Deb
Little
says
things
you
make
need
the
a
big
break
things
for
happen.
lunch.
Yeah. I
Yes.
agree, Deb. I saw her put that up and I immediately started shaking my head like, yes. And see, here's the thing is people need their managers doing that too. Like they need them leading by example. I just read an article here recently that talked about how a CEO felt that people really didn't leave until he left. for the day. And so he started to make it an intention that he would leave by 5 o'clock every single day. He would walk out the door. And he was doing that religiously so that to set the tone, hey, you go home at 5. Work is over at 5. And one of his employees actually caught him out in the parking lot on a call and asked him later, like, hey, I saw you in the parking lot on a call. Why didn't you just take it from your office? And he said, it's really important to me that everybody knows it's okay and that I advocate for them leaving at 5. And I'm concerned that if I'm still there past 5, that they think they have to stay. So regardless of what I've said, they will follow my behavior. So that's why I leave the building.
I love that.
And I was just like, oh, bring a tear,
I love that. I love that.
He would be so thoughtful to think about how people are perceiving his behavior and what they then interpret that to mean for their own expectations was just so profound. Right?
Yeah, I love that. It is definitely important. That's where those statements that culture comes from the top, is, but also if you're thinking about a virtual environment, the CEO might pop off at 5, but I don't know that because maybe I don't interact with the CEO. And so it's going to be, if I'm getting emails at 7:30 at night from my manager, then it doesn't matter what the CEO is doing. I noticed recently, actually, a good little tip. This is a provost of a university, a very large one. So this is at the top. And he's got in his signature line, I may send emails late at night. It does not require, a response, or it doesn't mean I'm expecting a response until you get back to the next day or something like that. And I was just like, I've not seen that in a email before, but I loved how he probably recognizes he has different work habits. And as the provost, people probably would think he's looking for a response right away. So to just put that out there. Yeah. And my team knows that too. Sometimes I do work after the kids go to bed just because I have the energy or something fun I wanted to do. Yeah. But it's always, I got to say, most of the time it's by choice. I'm like, oh, I really wanted to create that flyer for that thing we're doing and I'm feeling jazzed. But yeah, they know not to email me too. All right. Oh, so user, I can't see your name, but it says our manager makes us block an hour at 1 so we can have lunch together. I love that. Awesome.
See, and that's the relationship stuff that I'm talking about, right? So mindset, skill set, execution, relationships, and you need to be dancing between all 4 of these all the time, right? Yeah. And really challenging yourself and I love that one because that's that manager really prioritizing the relationship again.
Yeah, for sure.
People very rarely care what you have to say until they know how much you care.
Right. But now we're on to Maya Angelou.
I love her. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Stacey. Oh, wait. We have a question. Can you elaborate on, whoa. Hold on. Let me show it. Can you elaborate on the hats you wear and how you rank them in importance in different seasons and projects?
Yeah. That's a great question. And so it will vary by role, so we talk a lot about, the percentage of time that you're spending in each of these categories. So depending on if you've got a lot of people out sick, you might be spending more time in task, percentage that week because you're covering bases and you're making sure that those things are getting done. When you're fully staffed and you're feeling like you have everybody kind of, where they need to be, then you might be dialing back on that task amount and spending more time on the management role. And as you get further up into the hierarchy, if you will, for lack of a better term, is that you might see then you're spending more time on leadership, more time on management, less on the doing. So the idea is that you're scaling those percentages based on where you are. And the idea is that as you're thinking about leadership, your goal is you're thinking about the vision, you're thinking about, really that forward-looking activity and where we're going. As a manager, you're really in the day-to-day of the now on how you're executing things. And then in the task role, it's the act of getting it done, right? So it's really recognizing when you're wearing the different hat, your objective is different, even though you might be looking at the same thing.
I love that. Hopefully that helped. Christopher looks very dapper too. His picture.
I know. I love the bow tie. And Christopher,
he's got a tuxedo on. Thank you for dressing up for our show. We really appreciate it.
We're very formal and proper here. But I do actually have a job aid that shows the leader, manager, doer. And Catherine, if you would want to contribute or, share that with folks, I'm happy to provide
Yeah,
that.
or if you want to stick it in the chat here on this page, then it will live there forever, as will our video from now until the end of time.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
thank you so much, Stacey, for joining. Always great to chat with you and see you and learn from you. I love how energized you are with your everything you're talking about, and it seems like it resonated well with everyone. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And I
Thank you
will,
so much.
yeah, of course. Sorry, I spoke over you. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to work with you and to be a part of your program. So,
Yeah, well, thank you. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Stacey, I'll see you around SD, and
okay.
happy holidays. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.